My girlfriend asked me to come see her new iguana. I said maybe next time, and she said ask Brandon. He knows how to handle responsibility. Then completely cut me off. What did I do wrong? I am Ethan, 28, and I have been dating Madeline, 27F, for about 10 months. She comes from this tight-knit family that has always been a little intense, but I thought we were building something real together. Until 3 days ago. We had just finished this amazing dinner date. One of those perfect evenings where everything clicks. You know, good food, great conversation, lots of laughing. I walked her to her car, we kissed goodnight, and I was feeling like the luckiest guy in the world. Then she said, "Hey, wanna come over and see my new iguana? I just got him yesterday." I was honestly beat from a long week at work, and it was already past 10 p.m. Plus, I had an early meeting the next morning that I needed to prep for. That sounds cool, babe, but I am pretty wiped. Maybe I can meet him this weekend? Her entire demeanor changed instantly, like completely shifted from warm and affectionate to cold and distant in the span of 2 seconds. Oh, okay, sure, but it wasn't okay. I could tell it wasn't okay. Is everything all right? I asked. Yeah, it is fine. I will talk to you later. She got in her car and drove off without another word. No kiss goodbye. No text me when you get home. Nothing. I figured maybe she was just disappointed and would be fine the next day. We all have those moments where we are tired and overreact to small things. Right? Wrong. The next morning, I texted her good morning like I always do. Nothing. Tried calling at lunch. Straight to voicemail. Sent another text asking if she was okay. Radio silence. By evening, I was genuinely worried. This wasn't like her. So I decided to drive over to her place to check on her and apologize for not being more enthusiastic about the iguana. That is when things got really weird. I pulled into her driveway around 7 p.m. and saw another car there. A car I recognized. It belonged to Brandon Wells, her ex-boyfriend from college. They had dated for 2 years before breaking up about 18 months ago. I knocked on the door, and Brandon answered. Brandon answered her door. Like he lived there. "Oh, hey, Ethan," he said casually, like this was totally normal. "Madeline's in the shower. Wanna come in?" I was so confused I actually walked inside. Brandon was cooking dinner in her kitchen. Her kitchen. There were grocery bags on the counter, and he was moving around like he knew where everything was. What is going on?" I asked. "Just making some pasta. Madeline had a rough day, so I thought I would cook for her." That is when Madeline came downstairs, saw me standing in her living room, and looked more annoyed than surprised. "Ethan, what are you doing here? I came to check on you. You haven't answered any of my texts or calls." I was worried. She looked at Brandon, then back at me. "I have been busy. Busy with Brandon. He is helping me with some things around the house." I felt like I was in some kind of alternate reality. 24 hours ago, we were having the perfect date. Now her ex was cooking dinner in her kitchen while she acted like I was bothering her. "Madeline, can we talk? Privately?" She sighed like I was asking for something unreasonable. "Fine. Brandon, can you give us a minute?" Brandon nodded and went outside to the back patio. But not before giving Madeline this look that I couldn't quite read. "What is going on?" I asked once we were alone. "Yesterday everything was fine, and now you will not talk to me and your ex is here cooking dinner?" "I have been thinking about us," she said. "About whether you are really committed to this relationship." "What? Of course I am committed." "What does that even mean? When someone asks you to do something small, and you cannot even be bothered to say yes, it makes me question your priorities." I stared at her. "You mean the iguana? You are upset because I was tired and wanted to see your iguana another day? It is not about the iguana, Ethan. It is about what it represents." "Which is what?" "Exactly." She looked out the window toward Brandon on the patio. "Someone who really cares about me would have said yes. Someone who is truly invested would have made the effort. That is insane." I had work early. I was exhausted, and I suggested we do it on the weekend instead. That is not a lack of commitment. That is basic human tiredness. Brandon would have said yes. And there it was, the real issue. "So you called your ex because I didn't want to meet your iguana at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday." I called Brandon because he understands what it means to put someone you care about first. I felt like I was losing my mind. This couldn't be real. "Madeline, we have been together for almost a year. I have been there for you through everything. I have met your entire family. I have changed my work schedule to attend your cousin's wedding. I have driven you to the airport at 5 a.m. I have held your hair back when you were sick, but I am not committed because I was too tired to look at a lizard." "It is not just about the iguana," she said again. But she wouldn't explain what it actually was about. That is when Brandon came back inside. "Everything okay in here?" Madeline looked at him with this grateful expression that she used to give me. "Yeah, we are done talking." I left without another word. I have been replaying that conversation for the past 2 days, trying to understand how we went from perfect to over because I wanted to meet her pet on a different day. Am I crazy here? Is there something I am missing? Because this feels completely disproportionate to what actually happened. Edit. A lot of people are asking about the family thing I mentioned. Madeline's family is very close-knit and has strong opinions about who she dates. They have always been polite to me, but I have gotten the sense that they are evaluating me constantly. Edit 2. For those asking about Brandon, he was always respectful when I met him at group events. I never got the impression he was trying to get back with her, but seeing him in her kitchen like he belonged there was definitely a shock. Edit 3. Several people have suggested this might be some kind of test. That seems too crazy to be real, but honestly, after the last few days, I don't know what to think anymore. Update 1 Reddit. I don't even know where to start with this update. Your comments on my last post prepared me for this to be weird, but the reality is so much worse than I imagined. After my last post, I tried to respect Madeline's decision and give her space, but I was also dealing with a practical crisis. We had signed a lease together for a new apartment starting next month. The deposit was $25,000, expensive city, nice building, and I fronted the full $25,000 deposit myself. If she didn't sign, I would be on the hook for the entire amount. I called the leasing office to explain the situation, and they gave me 30 days to either get Madeline to sign or find someone to take over the lease. Losing $25K would basically wipe out my savings, so I swallowed my pride and reached out to Madeline one more time. Not to get back together, just to ask if she'd still honor our lease agreement. Her response was a single text. "Ask Brandon. He will teach you how to handle responsibility." That is when I knew something was seriously wrong with this entire situation. I decided I needed to understand what had really happened, so I reached out to the one person in her family who had always seemed reasonable. Her cousin Jamie. Jamie and I had gotten along well at family events, and she had always seemed like the most normal person in that family. When I called her, there was this long pause after I explained what happened. "Oh no," she said finally. "Ethan, I am so sorry. I was hoping they wouldn't do this to you." "Do what to me?" Another pause. "The loyalty test. My Aunt Meredith, she has this system. For anyone who wants to date someone in our family long term." I felt my stomach drop. What kind of system? "They create these scenarios to test whether someone will prioritize the family member over their own convenience or comfort. Small requests, usually, but they watch how you respond. If you say no to anything, even something minor, it is considered a failure." You are telling me that asking me to see her iguana was a test? Probably. Aunt Meredith designs them. She will suggest something to Madeline like, "Ask him to come over and see your new pet after your date. See if he makes an excuse. If you don't immediately say yes, you fail." I was silent for a long time, processing this. "Jamie, that is insane. That is not how normal relationships work. I know. It is why I moved across the country. I couldn't deal with the constant testing and evaluation of everyone I dated. My family has never forgiven me for marrying someone who failed. One of their tests. What was his test? Aunt Meredith asked him to help move furniture on the same day as his grandmother's birthday party. He chose his grandmother. The family considered that a betrayal of priorities. Jesus Christ. So Madeline just went along with this. Madeline believes in the system. She thinks it weeds out people who aren't truly committed. She has never dated anyone who wasn't pre-approved by Aunt Meredith. What about Brandon? Brandon knows how to play the game. He has been through it before with other family members. He always says yes to everything, no matter how unreasonable. That is when it all clicked. Brandon wasn't just her ex. He was her safety net. Someone who had already passed all the tests and could be called in whenever her current boyfriend inevitably failed. Jamie, this is sick. They are manipulating people into fake behavior to prove love. I know. But they see it as protecting the family, making sure people are truly devoted. After I hung up with Jamie, I sat in my car for an hour trying to process everything I had learned. Then I decided I needed to confirm this for myself. I called Aunt Meredith and asked if I could take her to lunch. She agreed, probably thinking I was going to beg for another chance with Madeline. We met at a diner near her house, and after some small talk, I cut to the chase. Meredith, I need to ask you something directly. Was asking me to see Madeline's iguana a test? Her expression didn't change, but I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. What do you mean? I mean, was it designed to see if I would prioritize her request over my own tiredness? Because if it was, I would like to understand the rules of the game I was apparently playing. She studied me for a long moment, then smiled. Not warmly. Ethan, relationships require sacrifice. They require putting the other person first, even when it is inconvenient. If you cannot do that with something as simple as looking at a pet, how can we trust you with something important? So, it was a test. Everything is a test. Life is a test. The question is whether you pass or fail. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot I had taken from social media. It was from Madeline's private Instagram story. One that I could still see because she hadn't blocked me there yet. It was a group text with several family members. The text read, "Ethan failed the iguana test. Brandon is back in, meeting Sunday to plan next steps." Meredith's smile faded when she saw it. "You put my personal business on social media," Madeline posted it. "I just took a screenshot, but this confirms everything, doesn't it? You have a whole system for testing and discarding people." She stood up. "I think we are done here." "No, we are not. Because you need to understand something. I am not going to disappear quietly like I am sure others have. This system you have created is toxic, and it is ruining your family members' chances at real relationships. Our family is very close. Your family is scared. You have created an environment where love has to be earned through performance, instead of given freely. That is not closeness. That is control." I left money on the table and walked out, but the damage was already done. I had less than 3 weeks to find someone to take over the lease, or lose $25,000. Edit: a lot of people are asking how this is legal. The lease agreement was contingent on both of us signing. Since she is refusing, I am technically breaking the contract, which means I forfeit the deposit. Edit 2. Several people have suggested I could sue her for the money. My lawyer says it is possible but would cost more in legal fees than I would recover, and it would take years to resolve. Edit 3. For those asking about the group text screenshot, Madeline had added me to her close friends list on Instagram stories, which she forgot to remove. The story showed her phone screen with the family group chat visible. Final to Reddit. I am back with the conclusion to this insane story, and honestly, it is better than I could have hoped for. After my lunch with Aunt Meredith, I had 18 days to find someone to take over the lease, or lose $25,000. I was desperate. I posted on every apartment hunting Facebook group, Craigslist, contacted real estate agents, even put flyers up around the building. Nothing. The rent was high, the timing was bad, and I was running out of options. In my desperation, I did something I am not proud of. I decided to try playing their game. I showed up at Madeline's house with flowers and a handwritten letter apologizing for not understanding what was important. I basically groveled, said I had learned my lesson about putting her first, and asked if we could try again. Madeline and Brandon were both there when I arrived. They looked at each other and actually started laughing. "Oh, Ethan," Madeline said, "you think you can just perform your way back into my good graces?" "This is exactly what Aunt Meredith said would happen," Brandon added. They always come crawling back when they realize what they have lost. The smug satisfaction on their faces was nauseating, but what really got to me was how rehearsed it all felt. Like they had done this exact scene with other guys before. You know what the funny thing is? Madeline continued. Even if you pass the next 10 tests perfectly, we will never trust that it is genuine. Once you fail, you are always marked as someone who needs to be constantly evaluated. That is when I understood the true cruelty of their system. It wasn't just about testing loyalty. It was about creating a permanent hierarchy where the family held all the power and their partners were perpetually auditioning for approval. I left without saying another word, threw the flowers in a dumpster, and drove home feeling lower than I would ever felt in my life. But sometimes when you are at rock bottom, the universe throws you a lifeline. That weekend, I was feeling sorry for myself and decided to volunteer at the local animal shelter. Not for any noble reason, I just needed to get out of my apartment and do something that wasn't wallowing. There was this dog there, a German Shepherd mix named Scout who had been returned 3 times because he was too anxious. He was shaking in the corner of his kennel, wouldn't make eye contact, clearly traumatized by being abandoned repeatedly. I sat with him for hours, just reading a book nearby so he could get used to having someone around without pressure. By the end of the day, he was letting me pet him. By the next weekend, he was wagging his tail when he saw me. The shelter coordinator, Sophie, noticed how well Scout and I got along. He has never responded to anyone like this, she said. You should consider adopting him. I cannot, I explained. I am about to lose my apartment deposit, and I might have to move back with my parents. A dog wouldn't be fair right now. That is when Sophie asked what was going on, and I found myself telling her the whole story. The failed test, the family system, the lease situation, everything. She listened without judgment, then said something that changed everything. I am actually looking for a place right now. What is the rent? 3 days before my deadline, Sophie signed the lease. She took over my portion completely, which meant I only lost the $5,000 transfer fee instead of the full $25,000. But that is not even the best part. When Madeline and Brandon heard I had found someone to take the lease, they showed up at the building to see who was helping me. I think they expected to find some desperate favor I had called in, or maybe evidence that I was secretly wealthy and the money never mattered. Instead, they found Sophie and me in the lobby, laughing about something while she filled out paperwork. Sophie is beautiful, confident, and was treating me like a normal human being instead of a test subject. The look on Madeline's face was priceless. Pure shock that I wasn't broken and desperate. Who is this? She asked. This is Sophie, I said. She is taking over the lease. And you are? Sophie asked politely. I am Madeline. Ethan's we used to date. Oh, nice to meet you. Ethan told me you guys broke up because of some family test thing. That sounds really stressful. The casual way Sophie dismissed their entire system as some family test thing was perfect. No drama, no emotion. Just a reasonable person recognizing unreasonable behavior. Brandon tried to recover. It wasn't a test. It was about commitment and priorities. Sophie looked genuinely confused, but he was tired and wanted to see your pet another day. That seems pretty normal. Madeline and Brandon left without another word. Final update 6 months later, I heard through Jamie, who has become a good friend, that Madeline and Brandon got engaged. But apparently, the engagement party was a disaster. According to Jamie, Brandon had to carry a notebook to remember all the family preferences and rules. He kept checking it throughout the party, which wine Aunt Meredith likes, which cousin to compliment first, what topics to avoid with which relatives. It was like watching someone perform a one-man show. Jamie told me. Madeline kept looking at him with this expression, like she was seeing him for the first time. Not in a good way. Apparently, Madeline approached Jamie later that night and said, "Do you think I made a mistake?" When Jamie asked what she meant, Madeline said, "Brandon is perfect for our family. But sometimes, I wonder if that is the same thing as being perfect for me. Too little, too late." The even better news, Aunt Meredith's system is starting to backfire. Several of the younger family members have started pushing back, pointing out that the testing has cost them multiple good relationships. Jamie told me there was a big family meeting where several cousins confronted Meredith about how toxic the whole system had become. They are starting to realize that weeding out anyone who will not submit to manipulation might not be the best strategy for finding healthy relationships. Jamie said. As for me, I am doing great. I adopted Scout. Sophie helped convince my new landlord to allow pets. I am still volunteering at the shelter, and Sophie and I have been casually seeing each other for a few months now. The difference between dating Sophie and dating Madeline is like night and day. With Sophie, I can be tired. I can have off days. I can say maybe tomorrow to things without it becoming a referendum on my character. She trusts me because I have shown myself to be trustworthy through consistent behavior over time, not because I passed a series of arbitrary tests. You know what I love about you? She told me last week. You are just yourself. No performance. No trying to impress anyone. Just you. That is what real love looks like. Not a series of hoops to jump through, but acceptance of who you actually are. I learned something valuable from this whole experience. There are games where winning and losing both cost you your authenticity. The only way to truly win is to refuse to play. Madeline got her perfect test passer in Brandon, but she lost the chance for a genuine connection with someone who actually cared about her. Aunt Meredith got her family control system, but she is watching it destroy the relationships of people she claims to love, and me. I got out before I lost myself trying to be someone else's idea of perfect. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is failing someone else's test, because it means you are not the kind of person who would design that test in the first place. Edit. A lot of people are asking about Scout. He is doing amazing. Turns out he wasn't anxious. He just needed consistency and patience. He is the best hiking buddy and has helped me meet tons of people at the dog park. Edit 2. For those asking about Sophie, we are taking things slow and just enjoying getting to know each other without any artificial pressure or evaluation. It is refreshing to be with someone who likes me for who I am instead of who I might become if properly trained. Edit 3. Several people have suggested I should warn other guys about the family's testing system. Jamie tells me word has already spread through their social circles, and several guys have started asking direct questions about family traditions before getting serious with any of the women. Edit 4. This will be my final update on this situation. I am focused on building a healthy life with people who don't think love should come with a performance evaluation. Thank you to everyone who offered support and shared similar experiences. It is amazing how many people have dealt with manipulative testing in relationships. The most important thing I learned, when someone makes you audition for their love instead of freely giving it, that is not love at all. That is control. And the only winning move is not to play.